Welcome to Rapture Recovery, the Big Book Step Study Program of Action. Congratulations. Last week you finished all the way through working with others. So we started out in the beginning. We focused on the preface and the forewords. They gave us all the information that we needed to gear our confidence up that this literature really does have some validity and foundation. We made a pit stop at the doctor's opinion, understood that alcoholism was a disease. We did a drinking inventory. We went to Bill's story, first experience, strength, and hope. We used this to really pull some activities so we could start some pre-work to our 4th step. We did an unmanageability exercise. Then we went to there's a solution. We focused on what is a solution. It's a spiritual solution that has a fellowship to go along with it. Then we went over to more about alcoholism. God's doing for us what we can't do for ourselves. He's telling us that there are many different kinds of alcoholics. There are people that are even just heavy drinkers that this program can be a solution for. We had a fun time doing a little 5 worst things we did when we were drinking. A little drunk log there, have a lot of Me Too moments. Then we moved into our 2nd step with we agnostics came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Then we did a gratitude list on God. We focused on our bedevilments. We understand that there's a solution to our way of living. It's a spiritual journey. Then we went to step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood them with our 3rd step prayer. We're going to give ourselves, we're going to give our difficulties because we want our lives to bear witness to others. Then we did the hard work in step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. The one thing we do a little different here is we do an evaluation of our 4th step. We ask what this would have looked like if God was in it. What are the patterns? What are our fears? What are our future ideals? Then we did our 5th step. We admitted to God, to ourselves, to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs, and that was our into action. We scheduled our 5th step. We also started looking for our character defects in step 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. We have a fun activity page to find those character defects. Then we have an activity page or an accountability page of our 7th step prayer life, which was humbly ask him to remove these shortcomings. We actually had a living journey through that to see how he could do that. Then we went to our 8 and 9, made a list of all the persons we had harmed, became willing to make amends to them all, made direct amends to people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. We have some accountability sheets here that you'll be able to use forever. Okay, then we hit step 10, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, we promptly admitted it. We have our little step 10 activity that we did for a week there. Then we went to step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for the knowledge of his will and the power to carry that out. We have a little quadrant there that allows us to come up with all kinds of fun ideas. Not that we're going to do them all, but there's no reason we can't brainstorm. Then last week we spent working with others, which was amazing. This chapter was really just gearing us up and giving us promises, giving us directions on how to work with other people and what does that look like. It looks like a lot more than just sponsoring, right? It looks like showing up on service boards, serving in the meetings that you're in, talking to the newcomer, sharing at meetings, and God will do for you what you can't do for yourself, and he will multiply your efforts. And me and my girlfriend have a joke that he multiplies our time. The things that we do don't make sense time-wise. We have so many obligations outside of our sobriety journey that we constantly meet, and then we have a lot of obligations within our sobriety journeys that we meet too. People look at this and say, I don't know how you're doing all this, and I'm like, I'm not, but God is. The last page of this workbook is your story. You know, we always say make an elevator pitch, because if you're talking to a newcomer, they're going to ask you, what's your experience? You need to have like a little 2-minute experience, strength, and hope story. And so we gave you a page for that. Now we are going to be hitting the afterwards to the wives and the family afterwards. So you are going to read this week. Get your highlighter circle to the wives and the family afterwards. This is about 30 pages. It should take you, this is more reading than you're normally doing in this Big Book Step Study, but each page should take you about a minute to read if you're an average reader. So that's a little over 30 minutes. So don't freak out. or listen to it. See if you can find an app that will read you the big book. But To the Wives and the Family Afterward are really resources that were given to people before the disease of alcoholism and our fellowship was so dominant, right? Like there is a lot of acceptance today that was not back 80 plus years ago, right? Our entire court system relies on our meetings. People get sheets that we sign. My name, I don't even know how many sheets of paper have my name and number on it. But anyway, if the court system uses our fellowship, psychiatrists refer people into our fellowship, therapists refer people into our fellowship, the churches support the fellowship. I mean, this is definitely a spiritual movement of God doing for us what we can't do for ourselves. But there is some valuable information into the Wives and Family Afterwards. So it's the action behind our living amends. So if you have a spouse, you may want to read the To the Wives to your spouse, but insert husband. I hate this. I mean, I can't believe that nobody's done anything about this, but I just can't fix in everything, and God is everything or God is nothing. So there's a reason for this somewhere. I don't know what it is, but it is kind of a pain in the tail to go through and read this and change every her to him. But I can do it. I can do hard things. On page 105, this is your first discussion point. Our homes have been battlegrounds many an evening. We already have done all the work now. So we've already made a verbal amends to our significant other and to our household. But now that we have confidence in a program of sobriety and some accountability and we're feeling a little better, it may be a good time to share this section with them if you want to. A lot of people have done it, and a lot of people have had a lot of success. So what we're doing here on our worksheet is kind of a home inventory. So now we're kind of out of the firing lines because we have finished our 12 steps. But a lot of these are going to be living amends in your home, right? Verbal is, you have a lot of action items. You're going to have to keep, showing up. So what I did here is do a current home life inventory, right? So, and then on the other side, I have ideal home life. So talk about this, write things down, do this activity together. So for me, I was screaming at the kids all the time, right? Before I came into the rooms. And after I came into the rooms, I was still screaming at the kids all the time. I think at that point I had 3 kids under 8. So, and one of them was like 1. So now my amends here is to listen to the kids. So in my 24 hours when I feel like screaming, I pause, ponder, pray, and remember, hey, I'm making a living amends to listen to the kids. Do this activity probably before you share this section of so you can have some talking points with them. I was discontent at mothering. So what did I do? I invested in a parenting journey. Like I bought a parenting book that I read. I was mad at my husband, so my second sponsor had me do a gratitude list on my husband for 30 days. No joke. She told me she met my husband. She was like, he is really nice. So you have got to get this together for your kids. And so you've got to do a gratitude list on your husband for 30 days. So that was that. And again, you can share things like this with your spouse. Like, here's the actual work I'm going to do, right? I never did laundry. So all of a sudden I created a little chore chart for myself to hold myself accountable to do just like a couple of chores a day. Food was scarce when I was alcoholically drinking. I actually used to take my kids to the gas station to get gas in the car, dinner for them, and drink. Unbelievable. But now I go grocery shopping with a meal plan. So to bring these things to my husband and say, these are kind of my goals that I'm going to be working on. If you have any ideas of how I can reach these goals, if you'd like to read the parenting book together, would you like to help me with the meal plan so you can get some food that you like, things of that nature. So we're in an interactive experience now. Something that was very important in the family afterwards was just kind of like, what are some of the roles that I've been not showing up to, right? And so I thought that it'd be a good idea to just write out roles. What are your roles? Are you a mother, a wife, a house admin? Those were all the things that I was supposed to be, yet I wasn't. So what are some action items to kind of gear up those roles? So I said, as a mother, I can invest more time in my kids because I was kind of in a avoidance thing. As a wife, I can invest in my relationship with my husband and ask him to go out on a date. We were not, like once or twice a week. My houseman, can I invest in some management of my home, right? Like there were some things really going wrong in my house physically, some things that needed to be fixed. But of course, it was just too much and I didn't want to deal, so I never did it. So I use this as an opportunity with my husband to say, how can we get to these? So all of a sudden, I'm showing up in a supportive journey to my husband and to my family afterwards. They have some really good sayings, love and tolerance, first things first, live and let live, easy does it. And again, this is really for the people afterwards and the family afterwards. It does give an amazing depiction of what a newly sober person should look like on their spiritual journey. And I challenge you to find that in the family afterwards and see if your current sobriety journey looks anything like that. Mine does not look as extreme as that, but it's not to say that I wouldn't want it to. But that was an interesting Me Too moment for that section. Okay, so now also we're going to hit to the employers. Again, this was something that was given to employers before this was such a predominant problem. You can pause this, go read 136 through 150. So that's about, another 14 pages. But anyway, go read those pages. Now, this is my activity that I always do to the employers. How can I apply this? Because, see, I'm a stay-at-home mom. So I did show up to careers that I did not really show up to because of my alcoholism. But I can't really harm others. So I don't even know what to do with this to the employers. So I prayed about it. And this is what God gave me on this. Take notes on directions for working with employees because sponsees will be your new employees in this spiritual journey of sobriety, right? And when I looked at it from that standpoint, the information just started jumping off the pages, right? Like acceptance that we are not the best employee we could have been. So accepting the fact that a sponsee is probably not going to be the best sponsee. But who has ever said what a best sponsee is? Some of the worst programs have taught me more than a good program. I know that's kind of crazy to think that way, but they're giving employers directions on how to manage someone who is still actively drinking or drugging. Now, we know just because someone puts down a drink or a drug doesn't mean that they don't have erratic behavior, and how do we actually deal with that? And they're giving employers directions, so why wouldn't we steal from this, right? So it says, fire after a bender. Literally says that, fire after a bender. Read the book when they're depressed. So if somebody does a relapse, have them reread the book, right? They never did it the first time. You only got through step 5. Have them read the book and call you. The alcoholic should not receive a disproportionate amount of time. Well, that took, can we just pause on this? Because I've had some sponsees that I have given a ton of time to because I just love them to death, but at the expense of time with my family, at the expense of priority of my family. And with these 3 young kids, there was a time that we had to have a discussion about how many phone calls I could actually take. And in turn, that's why we are here right now. That's why I've written this, and this is why I have recorded all of this, is to try to get some of this in digital format. A good employee will work like the devil, so they will be willing. So are they kind of giving us a little preface of what a good program could look like for somebody? So when we take on a sponsee, we don't feel the weight of the world because it's God's sponsee. I'm just a study buddy, So I hope that you guys have other experience, strength, and hope with this section of To the Employers. I do feel like That's what I got from it. And if you don't agree with that analogy or this depiction of information in a self-serving way to help me, then that's okay too. Right? But so those were the afterwords. And again, to the wives, you need to change that to the husbands. You need to share that with them. To the family afterwards, it's given a good depiction of what somebody's sobriety journey should look like. Does yours look like that? To the employers, go in there and see if you can find tips and tricks on how to deal with a newly sober person. So thank you so much for showing up to the afterwards. Next week, we are going to do a vision for you. A vision for you won't be crammed in with anything else because it's very important and I love it. Thank you.